She stood there like a queen in exile, bathed in sunset gold, champagne flute rays as if she were anointing royalty. Her sequin gown shimmered, like it had been stitched from the lake's own reflection. And then, with that smug little smirk she wore like lipstick, she announced, "I'm officially gifting this beautiful lake to my fiancé." The applause that followed felt like nails on a chalkboard. Only problem was, it was my lake, always had been. And in that instant, as her words echoed across the water like a curse, I knew something was coming. Something dangerous, dishonest, and ugly. I should rewind. I'm Tyler Brooks, landscape architect, born and bred in Central Texas. A couple years back, after Dad passed, I moved home to the family ranch. 50 years of Brooks history laid across those acres. Rolling pasture, a sun-bleached red barn, and a spring-fed lake dubbed by my grandfather with nothing but grit and a backhoe older than disco. It wasn't just scenic, it was sacred. Every morning, I'd take my coffee to the dock, watch the sun skim across the water, and feed the koi. Some of those fish had outlived two of my relationships. Just beyond the ridge, our land bordered development called Willow Creek Gardens. All manicured lawns and prefabricated charm. The kind of place where the grass looks spray-painted and the people frown if you don't match your porch cushions to the season. And ruling over it like HOA royalty was Melanie Sharp. Melanie was a vision of suburbia perfection, real estate license framed in gold, Instagram quotes about peace and positivity, and a smile that felt like it came with its own set of razor blades. She'd been after my lake for a while. First with a sweet email asking if the HOA could graciously incorporate the lake into the community. I declined, politely, then bluntly. She stopped asking, or so I thought. Fast forward to a humid summer evening. Melanie was throwing some engagement party extravaganza in her backyard. Her fiancé, Chase, was a textbook developer. Expensive suit, empty eyes, handshake like wet cardboard. I was sitting on the bench my grandfather carved, sipping coffee, when the mic crackled to life. I wasn't paying much attention until I heard her voice float over the fence like poison and honey. "Tonight," she declared, "as a token of my love, I'm giving him the most beautiful gem in our community, Willow Lake." My body went ice cold. Willow Lake? That was the name I gave it. My lake, my land, my koi, my peace. I stood, still holding my mug, and walked straight up the slope, deed in hand. I pushed through the wine-slosh crowd, past women in heels stabbing into grass, and said, evenly, "That's my lake, Melanie. You can't gift what you don't own." She turned to me, unbothered, her mic still hot. "Oh, Tyler, sweetie, you must be confused. The HOA has had access to that lake since the 80s. I checked the maps." "No," I said. "You're thinking of the public boat ramp on the far side. This lake, this spring-fed lake, is entirely on my deed." She smiled wider. "Well, interpretations evolve. And as HOA president, I'm allowed to allocate community resources, not on private land." I replied, holding the document like a sword. "This is carved in law." She didn't argue. She snapped her fingers. Two security guys came from the patio and grabbed me like I was a wedding crasher with a flask and a grudge. As they shoved me toward the gate, Melanie purred into the mic, "I apologize for the interruption. Some people just can't handle change." Of course, someone filmed it, but not the beginning, just the part where I was raising my voice. The next morning, the video made the rounds. Unstable neighbor ruins engagement. Comment sections lit up with opinions. Mostly bad. Accusations. Name-calling. But few folks squinted and asked the right question. Wait, can she gift someone else's lake? So I started collecting everything. Screenshots. Posts. HOA documents. Frame by frame of that video. Then came the knock at my door. 6 a.m. 2 cops. Melanie standing behind them in a silk robe like she just stepped off a meditation retreat. Her coffee mug said "Good vibes only." "Mr. Brooks," the officer began, "we received a report about threats made at a community event." "She's lying." I said, "All I did was assert ownership over my own property. She's fabricating the rest." Melanie presented a folder, smug as ever, According to Section 5C of the Willow Creek Charter, all lakes within development lines fall under shared management. The officer scanned the page. This talks about a retention pond on Elm Street, ma'am. This doesn't apply to his land. Well, she said, tightening her robe, that's outdated paperwork. I pulled out my deed, dated 1972. Private property. Signed, sealed, and registered with the county. They let me be, but as they walked away, Melanie leaned in and hissed, "You think this is over? You're standing in the way of something bigger than you." By 2 p.m. that day, a flatbed truck pulled up outside her home. Workers assembled a massive billboard on her lawn, glossy and bright. A full rendering of my lake in the background. The text? Future site of Chase in Melanie's lakeside resort and spa. She live-streamed the whole unveiling like it was a community celebration. Chase stood nearby, sweating like a sinner in church. I called my lawyer, Gerald, a longtime friend of my grandfather. He told me to gather everything and meet him first thing. That night, something in those HOA papers caught my eye. Melanie's election as president? Unanimous votes from addresses I knew had been vacant. Gerald started digging. What he found was explosive. Ballot fraud, forged signatures, entirely fake residents. Melanie's rule? Built on lies. Within 48 hours, we served her, during a live stream with investors, no less. The sheriff walked in, handed her a cease and desist, a restraining order, and a formal complaint for HOA election fraud. Her shock was cinematic. Her video went viral, but for all the wrong reasons. Sponsors pulled out. Chase started quietly packing. But Melanie wasn't finished. That night, she and Chase dammed the creek feeding my lake. Used sandbags on the public easement. I woke the next morning to devastation. Half the lake dried out. Koi belly up in the mud. Plants withering. Generations of care undone by one woman's greed. But I had it all on tape. Outrage erupted. Wildlife officials descended. The EPA opened an investigation. I filed a $3 million suit. Environmental destruction, harassment, property damage, fraud. Then Chase, drunk, panicked. Left me a voicemail meant for his lawyer. In it, he spilled everything. Melanie's forged elections, her plans to frame me, maps showing where to block cameras, even strategies to fake vandalism for insurance money. We played the recording in court. Melanie buckled like wet drywall, screamed at Chase, admitted everything before the judge even got a word in. She was arrested right then for wire fraud, environmental sabotage, embezzlement. The judge ruled in my favor. Melanie removed from office. The city passed new protections for historic family properties. I rebuilt the lake with the help of neighbors, koi clubs, college ecologists. We restored everything, every ripple, every reed. I even had a new bench carved, an exact replica of my grandfather's. Same view, same curve, same quiet magic when the sun kisses the water. Sometimes I sit there now, thermos in hand, and think about how close I came to losing everything. Not just a piece of land, but a living memory, a legacy with deep roots and gentle ripples. She tried to take my lake, but in the end, I reclaimed more than water. I reclaimed what no one can ever fake. Heritage. So tell me, was Melanie just another power-hungry villain in pearls? Or was something darker at play? Would you have fought back like I did? Or just walked away? Let me know in the comments. And if you've ever faced down an HOA or a neighbor with too much control and too little conscience, I want to hear your story. And if you believe that legacy is worth protecting, hit that subscribe button. I'll be right here on the bench watching the lake remember.